Welcome back. For this video, we are going to find what is the maximum value of the function f of x equal to x times e to the negative x power. So in doing a problem like this, it's usually a good idea to get a general idea of what the function looks like. Since we don't, this is the non-graphing calculator portion of the test. You won't have any devices available to you, so you'll have to just reason out what the function looks like. So what we'll do is we will draw out an xy graph. So here's our x and here's our y-axis. And when we look at this, we can just take the limits. So if you rewrite this, you could just say, let's say we had y is equal to x to the 1 over e to the x power. So if I took the limit as x approaches positive infinity, this value will become extremely large, much faster than this factor right here. This factor will also go to infinity, but this 1 over e to the x, this bottom portion will go much faster, which means this whole thing will approach 0 faster than this will go to a positive infinity. However, it'll still be positive, so you know that going towards x equals positive infinity, you know it's going to be approaching something like that. Now on the negative side, if you take the limit and x is approaching negative, so you take the limit and then x is going to negative infinity, well, this first portion here, this first factor, that'll go to negative infinity. And then this would become e to the negative infinity on the bottom, which is really just e to the positive infinity on top. So you have a negative times a positive, which is going to give you a negative value, but this is going to increase towards positive infinity much faster than this increases towards negative infinity. So it's going to go down in an extremely fast way. So on this side, we know it's going to be dropping down really fast because e to the infinity, the positive side, is going to be dropping this overall value very quickly. So then next we have to look at what's happening in the middle here. So if we say for x is equal to 0, well, that's 0, and then this is 1 over e to the 0, which is just 1. So this is just 0. So at this point, y is equal to 0. So we know it's going through the origin. And then something is probably happening here. And we know that it's going lower here, so chances are it's going to be doing something like this. And so when you get a sense of that, then when you think about, okay, what's the maximum value that you're looking for this value right here. You're looking for y max. And in this case, they're calling it f of x, but we're really looking for this guy, this point right here, and then it has a slope equal to 0. So at this point, slope is equal to 0, which means f prime of x is equal to 0. So of course, we're going to take the derivative. So we're going to have, so I'll just rewrite it here. F of x is equal to x times, and I'll write it as e to the negative x. And so when we take the derivative, we have f prime of x, and then we'll use the product rule. So we take the first, which is 1, and then we hold the second. So the second is e to the negative x, plus hold the first, and then we take the second. So this is e to the negative x, but we have to apply the chain rule, so we get a negative 1 right here. So on the next step, we want to simplify this a little bit. So what we can do is we can write this as 1 over e to the x minus, because that's the negative, minus x over e to the x. So we can factor out the 1 over x, so we have 1 over e to the x, factor that out, and then we're left with 1 minus x. 1 minus x. And then this is f prime of x. But now we want to set this equal to 0 because we're looking for the maximum value. So this is equal to f prime of x, and then we're going to set this equal to 0. And let me just get rid of this so the equation doesn't look messy. So we get rid of this guy right here. And then now we can just solve for x. So if we say for x equal to 1, well, that would become 0, and the whole thing becomes 0, and then it checks. So that's one of our solutions. And then for this guy, the only way we can't actually get this to 0, but we can get really, really close. We can say for x equals infinity, at that point, this almost becomes 0. This factor almost becomes 0, and then it would pretty much give us a slope at 0. And that makes sense because as you go all the way out to infinity, the slope at that point all the way out infinity is essentially at 0. But we really only care about this guy right here. So, but we're still not done because that is x equals to 1. So we just need to plug it back into our original equation. So f as a function of 1 is equal to 1 times e to the negative first power. And then that's just equal to 1 over e.